Morning. How are you all? If I ever sing, it's probably going to be like Back in Black by AC/DC. I was thinking about that as I walked up here. It's really good to see you all. On behalf of the Auditor's Office, thank you for letting us serve you every single day. We've obviously been very, very busy these last 4 years. We have concluded an investigation that led to the largest civil settlement ever resulting from a state auditor investigation in the history of this office. We have put a stop to the largest public fraud scheme in the history of the state of Mississippi. That's the DHS welfare scandal. The defendants that we have investigated have been sentenced collectively to over 300 years of prison time. So we're working hard in the Auditor's Office and bringing a ton of energy every single day because we know that's what you expect of us in the State Auditor's Office. I wanted to talk to you today from the perspective of a state auditor who has had a chance to look under the hood of Mississippi state government for the last 4 years. I think there is no better place other than maybe the governor's office from which you can understand the things that are going well in state government and the things that are broken in state government than the state auditor's office. We get to look under the hood every single day and see what's going well, what's broken, warts and all. And I'll tell you this, as I have been thinking about what's going well in government, how we can use taxpayer dollars more efficiently and better, I've started to think about it in the context of one of the biggest problems that I think we have in the state, and you probably all know what it is, one of the biggest problems facing our economy. I go all around the state. I talk to hundreds of business leaders every single year. I talk to blue-collar workers. I talk to professionals. I always ask the same question, what's your biggest problem? What's the biggest challenge you're facing? What's the answer? Workforce. Everybody knows. Everybody's talked about it up until now. Workforce. We are in a labor shortage right now. You talk to a business owner like yourself, they'll say, I need more good people to help me fill the orders that I've already got in the door. You talk to somebody like my dad, a blue-collar worker in the oil field in Jones County, he'll tell you, we need more people to work alongside me in the oil field because I'm bearing the brunt of this economy on my back. When you look around the state, go up and down streets, you see help wanted signs everywhere. So, in light of that, and in light of really a national labor shortage, I think we've got more of a problem here in Mississippi than maybe some other states because of our labor force participation rate. We've got fewer adults who are willing to go to work every single day looking for work than every other state except for West Virginia. In light of that, what can we do? What can we do better? I think Governor Tate Reeves has moved the ball in the right direction, but what else can we do to use taxpayer dollars better to help get people off the sidelines? Well, I want to propose 4 ideas for you today, stuff that I think we should be talking about, 4 ideas that are ways to improve government programs to help get folks off the sidelines. So idea number 1 is the Earned Income Tax Credit. The Earned Income Tax Credit. The idea here is pretty simple. If somebody goes from being unemployed to being employed, they get a tax cut. And as they make more and more money at their job, that tax cut goes up. And eventually it plateaus. And eventually it scales down and goes away so as to not disincentivize them from doing better at their job. Now, this has been tried in 29 other states, and there's a mountain of labor economic studies that shows us that this is one of the best things that a state can do to get people off the couch, off the sidelines, and into the workforce. It's not some harebrained idea that we came up with at the Auditor's Office. This actually works in other places. The thing I love about it is that it is earned. It's the Earned Income Tax Credit. So you have to go to work to earn it. There are some folks, and I found this out on Twitter when we started talking about the EITC, there are some folks who just want to hand a bunch of money to poor people. That is not going to help juice our economy. We need to make sure that we're incentivizing people to get up off the sidelines and take responsibility for their lives. 29 other states do this, and here's one of the other really good things about this idea. We could do this in Mississippi without a tax increase or without more funding from the general fund because we're sitting on a pool of money that could be used for this purpose. It's called TANF. Anybody ever heard of TANF? Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. 20 other states use TANF funds to fund their Earned Income Tax Credit. Now, we have seen in the Auditor's Office over the last few years that Mississippi a few years ago got really good at lighting TANF money on fire. We misspent as a state tens of millions of dollars of welfare funds. Let's talk now about how to use that money to make Mississippi better, not misspend it. So that's idea number 1, the EITC. Big idea number 2 is let's address brain drain as a state. So when I'm talking about brain drain, I'm talking about our talented young people who go to Mississippi universities and then they head out to Dallas or Nashville or Atlanta or somewhere else once they finish up. We did some research on this in the Auditor's Office. Between 2015 and 2019, conservatively, Mississippi spent somewhere between $1.5 and $2 billion on higher education. We only kept 50% of the graduates of our Mississippi universities in those 3 years. Only 50% were still working in Mississippi 3 years after graduation. That puts us in the bottom 5 states in the country for net brain drain, according to research by the United States Congress. That ain't good, in case you're tracking those numbers. That is not good. So we've had this challenge in the auditor's office too. We've had a hard time recruiting young auditors straight out of school to come work with us. So what do? We set up a fellowship program. It's called the Stay in the SIP Fellowship. The SIP, by the way, is what the young kids call Mississippi now. I had to learn that. I also had to explain that to my mom. Had to explain also that she was not the core demographic that we were trying to recruit for the Stay in the SIP Fellowship. The Stay in the SIP Fellowship is really simple. If you have done 2 years of your accounting work at a Mississippi university, and we like you and you like us, we will pay for the other 2 years of your college degree and your master's in accountancy. But this is sort of like the military. I give you something, you got to give me something. You have to come work at the auditor's office for a minimum of 2 years. And I'll tell you, this has completely solved our recruiting problem in the state auditor's office. So what I want to show is that this kind of program not only helps solve our problems, but it could also be applied to other professions. Let's apply it to computer scientists. Let's apply it to engineers. Anything that our economy needs, we could use the fellowship to help fund fellowships for them. And again, I don't think you need a tax increase or more general fund spending to pay for this. We still got kids who are coming here from Texas and California, New York, all over the place because they're getting a better, cheaper education at Jackson State or Ole Miss or Mississippi State, USM, or great universities than they would at UT Austin or somewhere else that's more expensive. Let's tack a fee onto what they pay when they come in the door, call it the Mississippi fee, and use that fee to pay for a fellowship to keep our talented young people here when they finish up school. Big idea number 3 is we need to address fatherlessness, and this is something that Andy touched on very briefly. We've got too many kids that reach the age of 18 and they grow up in broken homes. They're not prepared to do anything. They're not prepared to get a job. They're not prepared to go to a trade school. They're not prepared to go to college. And what we know based on social science research is that if you grow up in a home without an engaged dad, you are less likely to finish high school. You're more likely to go to prison, especially if you're a little boy. You're more likely to become pregnant in your teenage years if you're a little girl. You have worse health outcomes. All sorts of social maladies come with not having an engaged dad in the home. And 10 years ago, this was common sense, but when we did a study in the auditor's office pointing out the cost to the taxpayers of fatherlessness, you would have thought I kicked a puppy in the street. It was the worst thing ever that anybody could say. If you're not willing to name the problem, you're not going to solve the problem. And I think this is one of the biggest problems that we're facing as a state. So what can we do? What can we do? Well, government's not going to solve this problem on its own. We need dads to be engaged in their kids' lives, but there are some programs that are helping. So let's talk about the JROTC program in Jackson Public Schools. That program connects retired military service members up to high school students. And those retired members often become surrogate fathers for those kids. They teach them to show up on time. They teach them to set goals. They take them on field trips. They show them what an accountant does. They show them what a plumber does. They show them what an architect does. And the results are phenomenal. These kids have a 100% graduation rate in Jackson Public Schools. That's compared to about a 75% graduation rate among the general population in Jackson Public Schools. This is changing kids' lives. So we could do stuff like this here in the state. We could put that program or something like it in every F-rated school district in the state. We could change kids' lives, but we have to be willing to name the problem in order to help address the problem. So last thing that I'll add here in the last minute, and this is another elephant in the room, Mike, is the city of Jackson. The city of Jackson is the #1 talent magnet in the state that we have. When we did research on brain drain, we found that of the kids that graduate from Mississippi universities who actually stay in the state, 30% of them come to work in Hinds County. Now, they may go live in Rankin County or Hinds County or Madison County, but 30% go to work in Hinds County. It's the #1 destination. Number 2 by counties is Harrison County at 6%. Jackson is the #1 magnet for talent here in the state. And Jackson's magnet is going to turn off if we cannot figure out how to collect the garbage, keep the water clean, and stop being the per capita leader in homicides in the entire United States. Jackson has to get its act together if Mississippi is going to succeed. And again, I'll give the governor some credit here. He's done a great job. He has completely retooled the Capitol Police Force. He is refunding and retooling the police, not defunding the police. That's the kind of thinking that we need to address some of these big issues. Thank you for listening to me today. EITC, brain drain, fatherlessness, and getting Jackson back on its feet. Those are 4 big things that I think we need to focus on to retool our workforce and make Mississippi stronger. Thank you so much.